All right, thank you.
The first speaker is Dr. Vincenti, Associate Dean, Graduate Programs at University of Canada West in Vancouver, Canada. And the title of his presentation is AI-Assisted Spirituality, Transforming the Ignatian Exercises and the Lectio Divina for Modern Leadership Development. Give me just a minute that I upload your
Thank you very much.
presentation.
Yeah, full screen. Can you put on a full screen, please? Thank you very much. Okay, certainly I need my glasses. So thank you very much to all of you, in particular, of course, to the organizers, Vincenzo Arcobelli and Andrea Giuffrida and all the team. My name is Michele Vincenti from University of Canada West, Vancouver, Canada. So talking about artificial intelligence, today we are having the word AI everywhere, starting from the toothbrushes and maybe even the toaster. Personally, I started studying artificial intelligence 15 years ago when was not that popular. So today we can certainly have help from artificial intelligence in all the fields of humanities. It's very simple for asking for legal advice, medical advice, etc. So from my side, with the PhD in leadership, I thought, why not thinking what kind of help artificial intelligence can give us in the leadership field. Spirituality is an important component, as you will see, in terms of decision-making that is not based only on individuality, but basically looking in a sort of a triple bottom line when the decisions involves also other people and not just an individual. Leaders are individuals who makes people doing things that they want because they want to, not because they must do. And certainly the ethic is an important component. And so it is certainly possible being an ethical leader, and again, a spirituality, as you will see in the course of my presentation, is certainly helping leaders to become better leaders. So usually when we perform Lectio Divina or the exercise with Loyola, we require a physical, a real spiritual guides, but unfortunately there is quite a shortage. The Vatican News is informing us that actually the priest from 2021, 2022, the number went down about 114 worldwide versus 14 million more baptized people in the world. So certainly there is a problem in having access to real humans. So when we talk about the research, I wanted to examine again the AI effectiveness in replicating these traditional human spiritual guides. And interesting in particular for me to see what kind of impact, and especially maybe in a possible training use of a spirituality and so artificial intelligence in forming more ethical leaders. So wanted really to explore those considerations, and actually I started working on a project, a paper written by Caldero and Hernandez in 2021, when for the first time they developed those criteria involving spirituality and artificial intelligence. And then of course I added another metrics as you will see in the course of this presentation. In terms of methodology, I use an autoethnographic approach. Now I don't have time, of course, to go too much in depth on what it is, but in a sense, it's two words. The auto is biography, ethnography is about cultural. And so when usually we have a tendency as a researcher to be subjective, the autoethnography actually involve a personal and so subjective view of this experiment, if you want. And so I asked to artificial intelligence to going through the spiritual exercises and the Lectio Divina, the Gospel of Mark, each time to give me a few verses about the chapters, and then I answer my feedback, my interpretation of what the scripture said, and asking then for a feedback from ChatGPT. And so doing this, I've worked following a journal. And again, the idea is that the spiritual leadership involves, of course, vision, faith, hope, altruistic love. Again, spirituality doesn't need necessarily religious, the religion component is adding a more structured view, and, of course, the approach to God. And so, again, the idea is that when we look at the traditional leadership, we see that we assist a little bit of a failure of it, because once again, we focus too much on the short gains. And this, of course, is impacting the vision of a leader as an ethical person or individual. And so the researchers done, and now not recently, but for quite some time, have shown that actually spirituality is enhancing this ethical decision making, and in terms of of self-reflection, detachment, and discernment. Those are the steps involved when we talk about spirituality. Again, just to remind you, the Ignatius spiritual exercises, of course, developed by Saint Ignatius de Loyola. And again, the process was developed by him back about 500 years ago or so, and basically focus on self-reflection and ethical discernment. And he went through himself. This is a 30 days kind of process. And again, this is structured again in weeks, emphasizing awareness, detachment, purpose. Detachment, especially again in leadership and business, should be considered quite important, because again, if we want to think in religious terms, right, we can never find happiness on this earth, and certainly the only resources, of course, going to God. And so the promotion of spiritual and ethical alignment, this was basically the idea for Ignatius, Saint Ignatius, to develop this. The Lectio Divina is just, again, going through each day with a few verses of the gospel or any other scripture. And again, the idea is to reflect and have some prayer, meditation, and contemplation about the verses that, reading at that time. And again, the result of this is that it fosters team cohesion, clarity of purpose, and strategic thinking. And this is the result, again, is shown by research over time for people involved in a Lectio Divina. So again, what the experiment finding was that using an artificial intelligence comparing to a real human in religious individual, actually it reduced inhibition. Most likely, again, personally, I was able to talk and provide my feedback and my feeling in a much more relaxed and finding not judgmental kind of environment. The AI certainly encouraged the reflection and the daily spiritual routine. You can plan and customize what you are doing. And again, quite effective in guiding and journaling all the activities. Of course, for everything that is a pro, we have some cons, even if the field is improving daily in terms of capacity of those software and algorithms in dealing and copying or mimic the personal human behavior. Certainly, we have a lack of empathy and spontaneity and deep emotional responsiveness. Certainly, those are characteristics missing in AI. And so at the moment, it cannot replicate the human or moral accountability. And of course, even if what I did, I felt much more relaxed talking to a machine, we need to be aware who is managing the data. And so how those data will be used by ChatGPT or any other AI company. The themes that came out, again, as a daily spirituality life, the struggle with imperfection, faith as a personal anchor, and again, very much the empirical data, again, they show some error actually identified in terms of emotional nuances, overlooked, the empathy gaps, the affirmation issues. So all those things, of course, they were very evident when I did my research and analyzing what the response from artificial intelligence was versus maybe what an individual would have done, considering my answers and my reflection. So in terms of recommendation, 1 minute, okay? The recommendation is to use a closed loop in the sense, again, it's to be a more controlled kind of environment. And then again, if we want to use this to form managers, and again, the idea is unfortunately spirituality courses are not included in master degrees, etc. Versus what I said, the spirituality can certainly help to create a better leader. We need to communicate the limitations to the manager participating in those kind of courses. And certainly we need always to supplement everything with humans. So future researchers are certainly welcome on this. But again, in conclusion, AI is really offering some supplementary benefit from a structural point of view, but still we need a real individual if we want, again, having this human connection. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Vincenti. I would like to introduce the last speaker of the day, last but not least, Eugenia Cenini, a researcher of the Laboratorio de Epigenetica Departamento Morfologia at the University of Santo Spirito in Brazil. And the title of her presentation is Mens Sana, Assessing Police Military Officer Well-Being and Quality of Life in the State of Espírito Santo, an Integrated Approach. Eugenia, please. And you need to unmute yourself. We cannot hear you.
You hear me now?
Okay, we can hear you. You need to speak louder.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Eugenia. Thank you so much for inviting me to this meeting with so many international researchers. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So let me introduce myself. I'm Eugenia, I'm Italian, but I was raised in Brussels, where I've completed last year a traineeship at the European Parliament in the DG Com section. Right now, I'm currently in Vitória, Espírito Santo in Brazil, where I'm following the project Mens Sana with the epigenetic laboratory at the UFES, at the university coordinated by Adriana Madeira da Silva. And this project focuses on the analysis of quality of life and cardiovascular risk reduction in public security agents of Espírito Santo. First of all, let me give you a bit of context of this project. So it is based on a previous pilot study run in 2022 by the same research group that showed that military police officers show a high level of chronic stress and burnout syndrome. And these findings raise the questions of whether this high level stress is caused by their daily task that they need to perform every day, since this specific category is faced to a lot of violence, death, and so on a daily basis, and whether a targeted intervention could help them improve their quality of life. I also want to mention that the participation in the study was totally voluntary. The police officers were recruited through questionnaires, but the participation is voluntary. And so based on these findings, we saw that this category was at risk of cardiovascular diseases, which is one of the main causes of death worldwide. And in Brazil, there's no difference. And chronic stress can also increase this risk. And I also need to mention that the epigenetic group, as you can already understand from the name, is focused on finding how epigenetic modifications can actually improve or decrease mental health and well-being. And it has been found through research and through literature that the BDNF gene and the NR3C1 gene are linked to the development of this mental and physical disease. That is why they have been the main focus of the research group during these last years. And it is also something that we analyze when we collect blood with the police officers through the state of Espírito Santo. By doing that, we want to improve mental health of police officers by decreasing depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. And collecting and putting together all these findings, we aim at proposing a more integrative approach. So not just medical, not just psychological or nutritional, but all together. That is why the main 6 pillars of the project are based, as I already mentioned, on improving the quality of life of police officers. Actually, so this project is organized for police officers in Espírito Santo, but it could also be applied to any police officers also around the world. It is actually something that we aim to bring it also to the European community, to this Brazilian project. And as I already said, the main objective is to assess the quality of life, to evaluate cardiovascular risk using stress biomarkers, such as the N3C1 and the BDNF gene. How do we do that? So we first collect blood from the participants. Then they do through a cardiovascular assessment with our cardiologic professionals. We also assess their heart rate alterations to see who is more at risk of suffering such cardiovascular disease. And then they answer several psychological questionnaires with the moral support of the psychologist of the team, which I am part of. As you can see in the picture, this was this week when we went to attend the personnel in Aracruz, more northern in the state. And after collecting, so right now we're still in the assessment phase. We're still going traveling to the several police departments around the state. But then the third objective is to intervene in the body and mind health of the body and mind, with those with poor quality of life, more pain, depression, and that we see that have a higher level of stress. We also want to implement cardiological and psychological follow-up actions and compare pre and post-intervention results to see whether our intervention was actually effective or if nothing changed in their quality of life.
You have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I also wanted to mention that we are writing a quality of life booklet based on neuroscience and scientific literature that will be accessible to anyone, but again, it's aimed at military police officers. And also we are recording a quality of life podcast videos, which aim also at giving tips and orient people who want to increase their mental health and physical health daily. These are the 5 main pillars that I've just mentioned, because they do not just go through cardiological and psychological tests, but we also collect blood and do a nutritional assessment to see their body mass index, whether they have a healthy diet, and so on. And last but not least, I forgot to mention that we would implement a mindfulness workshop to integrate different kind of therapies in order to help them improve their mental health. To conclude the presentation of this project, we put so much importance on mental health of police officers because it is crucial in their normal functioning on a day-to-day basis. And we often forget that they are also human, even though they face brutality every day. And mental health in general, it's crucial to maintain constructive relationships, emotional balance, and a long-term physical health and good immune system. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope everything was clear. Again, if you would like to have additional information, want to know more about my journey, how is the project going here in Brazil, I leave you my contacts here in the slide, and I also mentioned my teacher's contacts for any further information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eugenia. This concludes our session presentation, and I would like to thank again all the speakers for their insightful presentations and also for their patience. So with that, I will give the last word to Dr. Vincenzo Arcobelli for concluding.
Thank you very much
session.
for everyone. I would say that resist to this long journey today. I appreciate you all, the moderators, the presentators e tutti quanti. Grazie mille per la vostra pazienza, per il vostro supporto e sostegno a questa iniziativa. E ci vedremo prossimo anno, ritorneremo nella capitale d'Italia, a Roma. Questo è un annuncio ufficiale che faccio, quindi ci organizzeremo per rientrare dopo 20 anni a Roma, in Italia. Grazie a tutti voi e a presto.